Hello everybody and welcome to today's Dead by Daylight video regarding patch notes 2.7.0. Not gonna lie, I looked over the patch notes and I was so unhappy with them, I kinda just decided to spend time on Mortal Kombat 11 instead. So I'm a day late with the video, forgive me. But that doesn't mean I didn't do my homework for you guys, but my wife did do the gameplay this time. She helped me balance out the workload, so again, forgive me on that, but it is what it is. With this patch came some massive changes to killers and minor changes to the overall gameplay mechanics. First adjustments were canceling games that load without all 5 players inside. This was added as a band-aid fix to the current massive problem of survivors disconnecting constantly via game crashes. When a game is cancelled, it does not consume any offerings or add-ons prepared in lobby. As to why they didn't just fix the issue is that they don't know why the issue is there, so they're trying to figure it out, and during this patch they also implemented a new debugger for them to help detect the problem. The Endgame collapse was released, which provides a few new functions. Killer can now close the hatch, and when an exit gate is opened, the Endgame collapse begins. If the killer closes the hatch, they also trigger the Endgame collapse. This collapse is a 3-minute timer which sacrifices all survivors at the end of it. The timer can be slowed if a survivor is downed or hooked. Hatch was now changed to always spawn with the final survivor regardless of how many generators are completed. And finally, a killer can open an exit gate. This becomes the I told you so moment to all the people who thought I was just being negative to be negative regarding this topic. The endgame collapse is just a glorified 3-minute timer. The effects of this are really cool, don't get me wrong, but the only time a survivor should ever die to this is if they're goofing off or get way too greedy for any bonus altruism points at the end. The endgame collapse was an absolute must for the game's overall health. Having a way to end the game after it is pretty much over is fantastic. Survivors used to troll killers all the time and extend games by just hiding around the map. It's happened, doesn't always happen, but it's just nice that it is a feature. A way for a killer to force that to happen and to concede if they don't want to play the match anymore, just opening an exit gate and being done with it is fantastic. The hatch closing mechanic was something needed over 2 years ago. It was tested a year ago. They finally released it, but the reason they held it off was just silly. I don't feel that there was a benefit to waiting. They should have just released it back then and then incorporated it into the endgame collapse, but it is what it is and it's nice that we finally have it. They've added a few blood point scoring events for both killer and survivor, so that's quite a positive. However, things start to look bad for killers in most of the remaining changes. Doors now only take 15 seconds to power, down from 20. Killers can no longer see the progress of the deep wounds meter. Killers can no longer make hatch grabs, and deep wounds meter no longer depletes while within the killer's terror radius. A few changes to perks were made. Calm Spirit now prevents screaming from all effects along with the visual indicators. Left Behind had its bonus repair speed drastically increased. We're Going to Live Forever now provides a stack on safe rescues instead of rescues. And Remember Me takes a heavy nerf as it was reduced to a flat 4 seconds per stack, maxing out at 16 seconds. Left Behind was not known to be a great perk, and with the ability to close the hatch to prevent survivors from escaping, it eliminates the use of Left Behind. Since the developers will not be changing the Left Behind achievement, this means that the achievement is heavily reliant on this perk, and of course the achievement was made for the perk, so that makes sense. But also, it kinda sucks since the perk is generally useless since the requirements for it to activate are even harder to achieve. You must be the final survivor, and if the killer closes the hatch, you can no longer work on generators. To get the achievement means it's gonna be quite difficult since you have to finish the last generator as the last survivor before the killer closes the hatch, then open the door, then escape. So that's gonna be crazy, and if you really want this achievement, jump on it before this PTB hits the live servers, cause that's just a bit crazy. Remember Me is a perk I'm personally going to miss as the changes to the exit gate absolutely sucks. It makes the perk useless as 16 seconds onto a 15-second door isn't going to make that much of a difference. The perk was there to make a good difference against survivors near the end game. It did make it a hell of a lot easier to defend the gates when you had about a minute to defend versus now just 30 seconds. The value of the perk that doesn't work until endgame is not worth it. It is not a good reward for the massive risk you take for it. Quite a few killer changes were made, and I'm sorry that the news does not get any better. I'm sorry I really didn't write the patch notes. The good news is that the Plague gets additional brutality points on her power. The bad news is everything else. Legion and Pig get the shaft. Pig's traps now only activate after a generator is completed. If all generators are completed and you place a trap on a survivor, it will not activate, meaning it's useless. Additionally, the timer stops while in the killer's terror radius. Finally, survivors can leave through an exit gate if their trap isn't active. This means they can either be in the terror radius or the pig could just place a dead trap on their head and they walk right out. This leaves the pig's power to only be useful for as long as one generator remains, but even then it removes a lot of her endgame viability. Wraith got a couple of changes that aren't actually too bad, but not that great either. Wraith now causes rattling noises when cloaking from his bell, and he can actually cancel his cloaking animation into an attack instead of having to wait to put the bell away. So that's a slight buff, not too bad. Legion got the most changes, and they've definitely made them into a worse Wraith. Legion's power can no longer affect the Deep Wounds timer. The power can only be used when fully charged. Frenzy movement speed was ultimately decreased. Takes 20 seconds to recharge Frenzy instead of 15. Terror radius was increased to 32 meters and the movement speed up to 115%. Duration of Frenzy was increased to 10 seconds to compensate for the overall lower movement speed. Fatigue time was increased to 4 seconds from 3, and missed attacks will cancel Frenzy. Vault animations were slowed, and blood can't be seen while in Frenzy. Based on all these changes, they've just removed everything that made that power worth a damn. You can still get a little bit of tracking out of it, of course, and hit multiple survivors quickly, but there just seems to be no point in having the power. You might as well just play Wraith. At least you can stealth before initiating a chase as a normal killer. Instead of covering all the individual add-ons, I'll just go ahead and display them here for you to read. Essentially, they changed the add-ons that were obsolete due to the changes to Legion and had them match up with other various add-ons from other killers that gave debuffs such as Mangled. Some of the changes, such as Iridescent Button, have a good quality of life to them, but others were very questionable. For example, you can run Legion Pin to put a 60-second broken status on a survivor in Deep Wounds by hitting them with Frenzy to reapply Deep Wounds. This means that you waste more time in Chase to provide an effect that will likely fade if you leave Chase. Overall, I think the Legion's problems alone require a full video to explain, so this is all you really need to know on it from the PTB, but there's more to talk about in another video. That practically wraps up the patch notes, and the questions likely is, what do I think? Well, I think Mortal Kombat 11. Yes, that's right, I said it. With Mortal Kombat 11 releasing on the same day as the PTB notes, I couldn't help but ignore all of these issues with Dead by Daylight. It's odd to see how well crafted things are on another side. Truthfully though, I hate the direction of Dead by Daylight and the way we're going right now. Some of the changes were needed, hatch closing, killer conceding, and Legion changes, but for what it's worth, I don't think it was all done properly. I'm kinda at the point where I'm not even sure I could provide feedback to the developers because it seems they're not listening, or at least not listening to the reasonable people. I'm told that they're making the game fun, and the question is, who are they making the game fun for? I don't find the constant crashes fun, I don't find this emblem system fun, and I absolutely don't find a 3-minute timer any more fun than the game we've already had for the last 2 years. Though I do like the quality of life updates, I just don't know what to do for the game. My feedback right now is we really need to address the things that are breaking the game and then adjust the balance properly. We were going in the right direction for a while, but I don't think anymore. Nurse and Hillbilly still remain the two viable rank 1 killers, and with the new emblem system it seems to be the only killers you ever see if you rank up. With that, enjoy Dead by Daylight to the best of your ability. I've done my best, but sometimes the disconnects have been so harsh the game is unplayable. But I do have Mortal Kombat 11, and I am enjoying it thoroughly, and I'm just going to continue to play that while I wait for this fire to get put out. Hopefully they change something in the PTB to fix this, or they get the fix for the whole disconnect issues soon. So thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, good game.